consciousness does not require a savior, but rather, raw consciousness requires only knowledge of oneself, and the power to access it. Remember this, as we unlock an even greater gnosis from beyond the veil.
From the Pacific Northwest, good morning, good evening, wherever you may be across the nation, around the world. I'm Chris Gio, and I will be taking you beyond the veil briefly this afternoon. I wanted to just do a quick little video. I was going to do a little BTV quickie, but I figured, you know what, it's a much better frequency when we do things live. And Mrs. Gio, unfortunately, cannot join us today. She's busy running around doing whatever Mrs. Gio does during the day. She's downstairs in the kitchen doing something. She cooked a whole bunch of really nice chicken breasts and all this stuff. And she's really trying to support me in my journey that I'm on. So she wanted to cook a bunch of really healthy food. But anyways, it seems like people have been kind of panicking a little bit. And it's an indication that people haven't been following along too long with our work, which we have hundreds of hours of content. I don't expect anybody to follow along with the stuff we do here at BTV in full, which on one hand, I don't want to repeat myself, but on the other hand, it's important to go back and re-explore other topics, especially because things change and no CCs, no cease change. Rylan sent a donation. Love you, man. Thank you so much for the love. Here's Mrs. Gio here. Thank you very much, Mrs. Gio. And you're welcome to join us at any time you want. So, are you going to?
I would need to get dressed.
Oh, okay. Well, whatever you want. Here,
yeah.
Can I give you this too?
Uh-huh.
Awesome. Thank you so much, my lovely little twin. But I wanted to talk about tonight about NPCs. Because we've received several messages on Facebook. How do I know if I'm NPC? I don't know. Who's an NPC? How do you identify NPCs, et cetera, et cetera? And we did a video a while back called What is an NPC? And actually, a couple of months ago, the NPC idea went into the mainstream consciousness as everybody was talking about it. We were on Clyde Lewis talking about it as well. For those of you that don't know, an NPC is a non-player character. We borrowed this term from the video game world, which is a player that is like in World of Warcraft. You know, you've got the shopkeeper that is the shopkeeper. He's not controlled by a real player. And you encounter several others that are not controlled by a real player actually sitting at a keyboard. So we borrowed that term. The opposite end of the spectrum is raw consciousness, which is something that we coined ourselves, spelled both ways, R-A consciousness and R-A-W consciousness. The idea of raw consciousness came when I realized that I was activating several different parts of my consciousness, which turned out to be manifested within my own consciousness as the Egyptian pantheon. And I realized the importance of the Egyptian pantheon and how they are different elements of consciousness. So Isis is the mother, for example. That's one element of the feminine aspect of consciousness. The Sekhmet is the warrior goddess. That's another aspect of the feminine element of consciousness. Osiris, Anubis, Horus, etc., etc. Horus is the lighting up of the middle of the consciousness, and once all have been activated, then you become the raw consciousness, RA consciousness, but even more so RAW consciousness. Because RAW is raw. Now it is divested of all programs and things like that we experience within the Matrix, because everything is a program. Now there's good programs and there's bad programs. There's virus-infected programs. Our traumas are programs. Our experiences are programs. Everything is a program. But getting down to that base level of consciousness of who we are before we have entered the game is the raw consciousness state, which being inside of a body is very difficult to access. You can't walk around and be raw consciousness all the time, because you're inside of a computer program, inside of a computer program, inside of a computer program. Now, let me explain this. We're inside of this matrix. Within the matrix itself, we have our brain, and we have our body. So now we are inside all of this stuff because we have to exist within the game in form. Toth talked about taking form from the from the flower of life, which in my opinion is the wheel of reincarnation, and the artificial intelligence that gives. More love coming from the chat. Thank you so much, Kylie. Kylie was one of the ones that was asking in the group, like, I don't know if I'm an NPC or not, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the reason why I feel her post, a couple of other posts as well, I feel the need to relay this information. So we exist outside of the holographic simulation, and that is our raw consciousness without any of the program overlays on top of us. And then we are organic consciousness. So defining that word organic, meaning, and it's just the best word that I can think of to describe it, but it means existing outside or not being created by the flower of life, but rather using the flower of life as an entrance into the matrix. But after I came to these realizations, I guess I should take a couple of steps back. Back in 2013, I started seeing some lights in some people and no lights in other people. And people were speculating back then that the idea of walking containers and people just walking around just playing out a program as opposed to actually having something here. And people were speculating maybe there was an evac during 2012 and consciousness was removed, and that's why some people are walking containers and some aren't. And there were many New Age speculations, but I realized that this idea of two different consciousness has been something that's been pretty consistent through all of the ancient teachings, which is typically discounted by a lot of the New Age philosophers. So you go back to the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. He talks about the children of men and the children of light, making a distinction between the two. You look at the Bible, and we didn't realize this until we were getting into Revelation. You have men, and then you have the children of men, two very distinct, different types of consciousness there. You also have, oh wait, I better not do this because they're going to take a screenshot now and say it's white power or something like that. Good thing I didn't do 3. Anyways. And then you have Blavatsky. Blavatsky wrote those that have the divine spark within them and those that don't. Gnosticism has the Hyllids, or Hylix, I think is how you pronounce it, and the psychics, two very distinct, different types of consciousness. Some with the abilities to experience these higher spiritual realms, others that do not, because they're nothing more than a computer program and they walk around as such. So when I found the repetition of the two different types of consciousness throughout many different ancient writings, I realized that what we were onto was something huge, and we were just understanding it in a different way. And the progression was very interesting for me because we started talking about NPCs and Matrix and the idea of Matrix before coming across the ancient writings. I mean, it wasn't until like a couple of months ago that we decided to read the Bible with these eyes. Ricardo sent more love. Thank you, Ricardo. Everybody sending love tonight really rocks. But and everybody in the chat room, maybe join. I mean, you all rock, and that's just, we're BTV. You know, this is what we do. As I said on a previous show, we have the best freaking audience out there. I mean, everybody's on the level eye to eye. There's no guru. There's no nothing like that. I'm just telling you what I've unlocked from within myself. So we have these different types of consciousness that people have talked about. It's just we finally have the proper language now, or a better language, I should say, to communicate these very, very ancient ideas that we have been reading about, and to see things through a different perspective, like the flower of life, what they used to call the artificial intelligence. Well, if this is a simulation, and how would you explain to somebody way back then when Thoth wrote the Emerald Tablets, how would you explain computer simulation? How would you explain artificial intelligence? The flower of life, where everything comes from. Reality is rendered from the flower of life. Our bodies are rendered from the flower of life. The flower of life is a portal that allows us in and out of the game, and the flower of life also creates NPCs or non-player characters. And really, the consciousness is very similar between an organic and an NPC in the sense that both are able to expand, both are able to open up. The difference is that NPCs don't exist outside of the Matrix. And because of that, this world is very real to them. And so they'll fight you tooth and nail about the reality of reality, and or the validity of reality, I should say. And the biggest thing that the NPC revelation did for me is allowed me to move through the game while understanding my role and my mission and how to better interact with those around me. So we all have those people that are like stuck in their ways. They will always be stuck in their ways. They don't understand the deeper levels of the stuff that we talk about here on Beyond the Veil. And a lot of times they get information and then repeat and get information and repeat like a computer program, or they're just completely stuck. And rather than pulling my hair out and believing that my role in this matrix was to wake everybody up, was to move this huge mountain that's in front of me, I realized that the majority of people here don't have the capability of waking up. And the best thing that I can do for myself and for them is to start interacting with them on their level, instead of trying to interact with them on my level and bring them up to a place to where they simply cannot understand. I hate to admit it, but my mother, I'm 99% sure she was an NPC. Her role was to be a guide. Her role was to be a protector, to help me to get to the level that I needed to get to. And then she went back into the flower of life to be reincarnated as something else. And maybe even my niece, because it's very interesting. My niece, 2 years old, adorable little thing. She's been telling my sister, and my sister called me the other day with this. She's been telling her, when I was your mommy, we used to do this. When I was your mommy, we used to do that. I remember when I was your mommy. And I'm like, and my sister called me and she's like, could this be mom reincarnated? And it very well could. I don't know. It could be. I mean, she could have been organic. I don't know. But some of the clues that tipped me off to it was that she was really, really, really stuck in her ways. She died without having a psychedelic experience and was so gung-ho against thinking outside of the box that she went through cancer twice in her life and would not touch cannabis. And I'm like, Mom, here is this will really help with the pain. This will help. No, I'm not. I've prided myself on not doing drugs. And here she is pumping herself up with chemotherapy and all of this stuff. And it wound up disastrous because she didn't die from the cancer. She died from the chemo, and she didn't die until several years after her last chemo treatment, when she had a stroke, heart attack, and seizure, which all happens from too much chemotherapy. And they gave her this experimental chemotherapy for a lump on her breast, one small lump on her breast, and they decided to give her this really hardcore, expensive chemo because my father had the insurance to cover it. And I don't know why she agreed to any of this, but my point is that she was incapable of thinking outside of the box. However, she had this program inside of her that knew, hey, look, you need to protect him. You need to nurture what he's doing. And I don't think she knew why, because we would take LSD and ecstasy and things like that, and she would create a space for us. She was completely against what we were doing, but she was still, her bottom line motivation and programming was ensure the safety, almost as if it was hard coded in her to ensure the safety, as most very good mothers do. But she wanted to be buried, or she wanted her ashes scattered in Greece. And this was a big thing. My sister and I fell out for a couple of years. She wanted her ashes scattered in Greece. That was her dying wish. But when it came time to die, she realized that she couldn't get a burial from the church if she had cremation. And so in order to have a Greek Orthodox burial, she had to be buried, or a Greek Orthodox service, she had to be buried. And I told my sister all of my life, my mom has been saying she wants her ashes scattered in Greece. When we were in Greece, we had these little eggs that I was just fascinated with. These little I don't know what they're called. They're like they're made of some stone, but they're just little Fabergé eggs. And my sister brought them over to our house one day, and we took them to Egypt with us, which helped so much. And I don't want to get into how it helped in Egypt, but it's funny because there was this one particular blue egg that I was so fascinated with as a kid. And my mom used to always say, don't touch those, don't touch those, don't touch those. And I was always so fascinated with this. And they played a pivotal role in Egypt. Like I can't even describe it. I wish I could tell you, what role these eggs played. But it's funny because she got them in Egypt, and then the eggs wound up traveling right back around to Egypt. But while we were in Greece, I took one of those eggs and I dropped him in the ocean because we couldn't have her cremated as her wishes were her entire life, or my entire life. And so it was that kind of programming that made me think back and go, you know what? I am pretty sure she was an NPC, because no matter what I told her about anything, like, it doesn't matter. Like, who cares if your wishes is to have your ashes cremated and go scattered into the oceans in Greece? Then by all means, fuck the church, fuck what the other Greeks think, fuck all of that. This is your dying wish here. Do it. But anyways. The programming was so deep. I mean, same with the cannabis, with the cancer and all of this. So, rather than trying to enlighten her, if she was still alive, rather than sitting there and trying to enlighten her all day long, realizing when I get to her house, she's going to be very Greek Orthodox. She's open to some of the stuff that I talk about, but I probably should not talk about the deeper levels of gnosis with somebody like that. We have other people in our lives that are the same way. Hardcore church all day long, and every time we go, they preach to us. So we expect to be preached to when we get there, instead of it being a constant battle of combating back and forth. And hey, we're going to try to convince you our ways right, and you're going to try to convince us our ways. We just sit there and, okay, yeah, no, of course, yeah, no, that's your programming, that's your NPC program. I totally get it. This is what I think in my mind when I'm listening to this. I totally get it. Okay, I'm not going to change my mind just because I'm not going to go against what I know. And some of the New Agers are like that too. I mean, I've seen things in the ayahuasca realm that is gnosis. I mean, it's 100% gnosis, and it goes against the New Age stuff. And I talk about it here on the show, and they try to convince me otherwise. And I'm like, look, I can't discount my own experiences in the realm, okay? Just because you're saying something and it sounds good on the surface, I can't discount my experiences in the realm. I'm sorry. My personal experience trumps everything in my particular journey, as should it in yours. If we say something here at BTV that's not quite resonating, or it goes against your experiences, consider it. But it may not be gnosis for you. We each have different puzzle pieces, and it's okay. But it doesn't mean that we can't come together and bring our puzzle pieces together. But a lot of the NPC programming is just that. They're not open to hearing contrary or opposite perspectives, et cetera, where organic consciousness kind of sees from a 360-degree perspective. So people have been freaking out a little bit, asking themselves, oh my God, am I an NPC? Am I an NPC? And let me tell you, I ask myself this pretty regularly, because what we did in Egypt was so ancient, and it was so... we did it with such fervor that I came back asking myself, am I a computer program? Am I an antivirus program? I mean, all of this, is this part of my programming to come in here and clear out the virus? Is that why I'm so adamant about clearing out the virus? And I was willing to risk life, limb, and everything else, and risk my wife's and twin flames' life. I mean, everything. We put everything on the line, and we went on pure blind faith. No map, no guide. We didn't even have all the funds necessary. People were donating money as we were there. People were buying Aya Life and things like that. We went on pure faith and gnosis that what we were doing was going to work. We had no contacts, nothing at all, period. And so I have to ask myself, am I an antivirus program? If you look at the Matrix, Neo turns out to be a program at the end of it all. I still wonder this. But there's some people that can't ask themselves this question, and some people that don't recognize the holographic nature of reality. And they'll go so far as to say that it's some kind of agenda to talk about the holographic nature of reality, because then things stop mattering. And the first thing that most NPCs' minds go to, and I think we've seen this in the past, is, oh, well, if nothing matters and this is just a fake reality, then I can do whatever I want. Well, the impact that you have on consciousness, on your own consciousness, I mean, forget the other consciousness. Okay, let's say the NPCs don't have a consciousness that is traumatized by severe death and torture and things like that. Well, your own consciousness is still affected by doing those kind of things. And we as organic consciousness, we think about these things. And so we have empathy for others, which realistically, I mean, bringing it back full circle, it's really empathy for ourselves. Because if we know that if we hurt somebody or do something like that, we have to carry that energy with us in our own consciousness. And that's not what we're here to do. Christopher sent some love too. Thank you, Christopher, for the acknowledgement and the love. So, people ask themselves, am I an NPC and am I an NPC? I think the thing is that NPCs aren't capable of asking those questions. And it doesn't have anything to do with the level of spiritual enlightenment that a person has, because there's some programs out there. I mean, just watch The Matrix. The Oracle was a program. She was one of the most enlightened people out there. I mean, she was the seer. She was the all-knowing, and she was a computer program. So some of these NPCs are indeed computer programs. The difference is when you go to them and ask them, do you think that you possibly might not be real? Do you ever contemplate that? Their answer is always no. I know I'm real. I know I'm real. I know I'm real. Because they're not capable of thinking like that, because they have no baseline reference of what is real versus what is a computer simulation. So I think if you're asking yourselves those questions, I'm pretty sure that you are probably organic. We've been chastised before on Facebook. It's all happened over the last couple of days about the number of organic players versus NPCs. I don't know, but I mean, what I've come to is that I thought 1 in 1,000 at first, and then I thought maybe 1 in 1,000,000. And then, the numbers start to get smaller and smaller when you really think about this. Think about this from just a physical perspective. Most of the people that remember coming back here, and they remember the pods, seem to remember a centralized location where these pods are kept. It's not like, people all around the world logging on to World of Warcraft and playing the game. But rather, people seem to remember a centralized location where all this is taking place, some kind of facility. Can we stack 1 billion pods in this facility? Can we stack 6.5 billion pods in this facility? I don't think so. That's another thing. I don't think that it's like that. I mean, you go to the really extreme, and there's some philosophies out there. We talked about this movie Vanilla Sky that you should check out. But some philosophy, and I have a theory that it comes from Scientology. I haven't looked into Scientology enough, but I want to look into it because I think they might have similar theories. You can open the cameras if you want. Yeah, and I can bring you on. So, some of the philosophies in that movie, Vanilla Sky, I'm just intuitively picking up are from Scientology. But at the very extreme level of this, there's only one consciousness that's organic in this entire video game, and each one of our realities are individual realities. Now, I don't think that. I think it's more of a multiplayer kind of situation where you have several real players interacting in one set space. Mrs. Geo is joining us here.
Oh, hey guys.
I think your camera will go back into focus here in a second. Yeah, I think you gotta.
Should I do that? To get it. I don't know why it's doing that. That's so weird.
Here, I can do this. Let me put this scene on, and then I can put this here as a preview, and you can get that situated here.
Okay.
I think if you move closer and further back from it, it will start to go back into focus. Anyways, so or you know what? Here's what I'll do. I'll take a quick break here in a few minutes, and then we'll situate this during the break and keep it going. So the Vanilla Sky situation is the extreme, but when you really think about this, I don't think that there's very many real players. Somebody was chastising Cherie about the number 500,000 because I guess on the previous show we were speculating about how many NPCs are here versus organic, and people were saying in the chat, well, I think it's more like 100,000. I think it's more like 200,000. I think it's more like 500,000. I think it's more like a million. I think 500,000 is even a little bit too generous, but that's just my own personal feeling on this. But there's one thing for sure, that we as organic consciousness seem to be able to find each other, and we seem to be able to interact with one another as if there's like some kind of beacon that we all have, that the NPCs can't see. And so, everybody's kind of drawn together. I mean, it's funny because I joke, as above, so below, that my best friends are all inside of a box made up of ones and zeros, which is true. Some of my best friends are on the other side of the world. I've never met them in real life. We interact only through this box of zeros and ones, which, as above, so below, because as above, if we're inside of a box that's made up of zeros and ones, all of my best friends are in a box made up of zeros and ones. But how is it that we are able to find each other throughout this matrix here, and we don't even have to interact, but we know each other? There's this knowing, and I think a lot of you feel that way about Cherie and I. We all know each other from somewhere. Where is this place that we know each other from? It's from the real world. I mean, like M's in the chat here. We know M. I know M. She's an ancient soul that's from not only one of us, but also from inside of the inner circle. I've never seen M in the physical. She doesn't have a picture, nothing like that at all. But I recognize the energy signature. I recognized it right off the bat as soon as she started talking. Why is it that we all recognize each other like this? So those are a couple of things that I would ponder and toss around. But NPCs aren't evil, though. See, NPCs are necessary to make the game fun. And I have talked about the idea that this is a shutdown process, that we initiated a shutdown process within the Great Pyramid. And I realized that it all comes down to balance. It comes down to the virus removal, comes down to balance. And I've been talking about balance so much lately, balancing everything: physical, sexual, psychological, spiritual, every aspect of ourselves. But I didn't realize why, and I didn't realize the importance of it until just a couple of days ago. But the importance of the balance is that the matrix needs to be in balance, and that's what we did in the Great Pyramid. However, it all lays on the consciousness of the organic consciousness. Nick Bravo made a very good point. He said, if we elevate our own consciousness, the NPCs are going to follow because they mimic us. And the way that the virus got into the system was that we infected the system ourselves by getting the virus stuck in our own consciousness, which echoed out to the NPCs, which then echoed out to the artificial intelligence. I don't know a firm answer on that, but I know one thing for sure. In order to get out of the machine, we have to be balanced. And reading through some of the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, which we did on a previous show, I realized the importance of balance. I mean, the keys to life and death is balance of all things, is being able to harness this matrix. And maybe the virus wasn't even as bad as we believed it to be, but rather it's all a test. It's all a journey. Can you balance everything? Can you balance the physical, the spiritual, every part of yourself? Once that balance is attained, then the portal opens naturally. Maybe that's one of the reasons why the portal has been locked for so long, because we've been so off balance. But I think having a balanced foundation, which is the artificial intelligence and the matrix in and of itself, is fundamentally important to being able to balance ourselves. Because, when you're in the middle of a war, which we have been in the middle of a war for centuries now. And it's a war against consciousness. It's a war that's constantly, trying to suppress consciousness, that manifests itself in physical conflicts. It's hard to focus on balancing yourself because you're stuck in the middle of this war zone. But, we're lucky, and especially in the United States, in the UK, and places like that, we're lucky that we don't have these kind of physical things that are constantly in our sphere. I mean, you go to some other countries, and those kids, 5, 6 years old, I mean, they're watching their parents get their heads blown off. They're watching bombs blow up in their schools and around the corner from them. I mean, those people cannot balance themselves at all, not under those conditions. We're lucky. We need to appreciate what we have and find the balance, because we're in the optimal place to find the balance, even though the balance of our own governments have its own problem. But at least they're not knocking on our doors every single day, and we're not just sitting here just having a conversation that then boom, bomb goes off, 10 feet away from where we are right now. And some of the world is like that. and it's very sad. But on that note, I'm going to bring the feminine balance here into the show. So I'm going to take actually, I'm not, well, yeah, I guess we should take a break because I need to fix her camera and make sure that everything is good there. I was just going to skip directly to an intro, but let me see. I need to put together more of these break clips because I only have like 3 or 4 after the hard drive crash and a loss of everything. So forgive me for playing the same ones over and over again. I just don't have any anymore, but we'll be right back.
Is never to destroy. It is always to create. Build bridges. Create happiness. And bring forth new life. We must make an effort that mankind will draw together. And that we better understand each other. The more that we awaken, the easier this will become. They will conduct us, and fear no danger, as you step beyond the veil.
All right, Mrs. Geo is here. How are you doing, Mrs. Geo?
I'm good. How are you?
I am good.
Good. So
I'm looking for that Sekhmet video because Countess Sue in the chat has a headache. A golf ball size headache.
Oh.
And I'm tapped into the energy because I'm feeling it a little bit. And I'm wondering if we can just do a little Sekhmet meditation.
Okay.
So we can see if collectively we can help to alleviate her headache. It would be an interesting experiment. But I don't know where the Sekhmet meditation video is. So, I guess, I really need to go back and arrange these. How are you doing, Mrs. Geo?
Well, I've had a chance to listen on at least the last 15, 20 minutes of the broadcast. And I'm thinking to myself, there's got to be a reason why, you know, somebody mentioned in the chat that they were having they had a dream where they had an experience where they woke up in a pod and I was thinking to myself, oh, I've got to address this, because it seems like this is happening more and more and more and more. Ever since we came back from Egypt, people have been waking up in pods. They've been remembering the pods. They've been, so I'm wondering, what is this all about? And I'm thinking that it's kind of like we broke something whenever we went to Egypt and did the ritual at the Great Pyramid. Something happened where it broke the matrix just enough so that
A veil was dropped.
organic consciousness can start to stir a little bit, instead of being asleep, deeply asleep. We're all having these experiences where everything expands.
Everything expands.
And we
So
wake up.
let's take a moment. I don't have the Sekhmet meditation in front of me, but maybe Sekhmet's not what we need to call to. This is from Hathor's temple. So I'll just put this up on the screen, and if you can all focus, and not only on Countess Sue, but also on anybody who's listening right now that's experiencing some kind of pain, and see if we can help to bring an energy field that everybody can tap into and alleviate some of that pain. Yeah, then the Countess Sue person said, I don't really have a headache. I'm just messing around. Well, at least we created an energy field. So,
Well, and somebody else commented that they do have a headache and they've had a massive migraine attack for like the last 6 months. And so I said, well, then this was meant to be, because the girl was joking about it, but really someone else was actually having problems with headaches. And so maybe we were able to help him.
yep. That was footage from Hathor's temple at Dendera, built by Cleopatra.
Yeah, for her son.
Yeah, I wasn't really tuned into the Cleopatra energy until we took that Molly. Pure Molly, pure MDMA, not street garbage.
Yeah, not the crap.
And she appeared, and I realized the importance of beauty. Oh, I was talking about masonry the other day, and I talked to my friend that's the mason in Australia, and he said, so the worshipful master represents light or wisdom. The senior warden represents beauty in the west. So you have wisdom on the east, beauty on the west, and then the south, where the junior warden sits, represents strength. So the three working together represent, and they're based around the three pillars too. So he went into some more explanation about that. So I'm glad that he did, because I can remember. But the three balance, I think there's something to the three balance there. So anyways, just kind of a side note. So back to the subject of NPCs. I don't think people should freak out about the idea. You just know. There's really no way. You can't identify somebody and say that's an NPC, that's an NPC, that's an NPC, et cetera, because there's some people that are locked. There's some organic consciousness that are in the game, and they don't want out of the game.
Right.
And they will fight tooth and nail against anything that threatens the game, especially... the way this all happened, in my opinion, is what was revealed to us in Egypt. Now, we're getting at some deeper levels here. I was trying to keep this a little bit generalized and short, but we're going into an hour now. So, I guess it's just going to turn into a full show here. I'm going to have to just make a quick video and upload it. But what happened in Egypt is we started touching stones. And as soon as we started touching stones, the gnosis started pouring in, and it was confirmed physically as well. So the first stone we touched was the Great Pyramid, because that was the first place we went. Like, that's it. We're going straight. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Go to the Great Pyramid. Then the progression was going down to Luxor, doing our ritual in Hatshepsut's temple, then doing our ritual in the Temple of Isis and Philae, which is down in the south, or Upper Egypt. They consider the south upper. And then going back to the Great Pyramid and doing our ritual at the Great Pyramid at midnight.
Do you know why they differentiated between Upper and Lower Egypt the way they did? Because the Upper Nile came from the south.
It's the way the Nile
and
flows,
the Lower Nile came from the north.
Yeah.
So
we went to several other sites too, and in hindsight, I wish we would have drank at Karnak, because Karnak was open to us as well, but it was time. We just didn't have the time to do it, and the resources. I was afraid that we were going to run out of the mimosa before we got to the Great Pyramid.
Well, and that one needed to be like 4 times as much.
Yeah.
That one needed to be hardcore.
Yeah. So I had that in my mind too. Like, hey, we've already done 2 ceremonies. We have a limited amount of mimosa. There's no way we can get any more, and that's that.
Yeah, exactly.
So what happened is we went everywhere. I mean, there was nothing except for tombs that we didn't go to. The tombs we weren't interested in, because that's death, like the Valley of the Kings.
Yeah.
It's probably beautiful, but it's death. We were looking for life energy, not death energy.
Right.
So we went to Saqqara, and at Saqqara we had the bent pyramid, or the step pyramid. Yeah, it was a step pyramid. And we had a couple of instances where we were able to seemingly freeze time. So the first one happened when we went to the Great Pyramid at first. We went there when it was open to the public, and you have people constantly passing by there. And, me being the ancient soul that I am, going back and seeing our machine again in this lifetime, something inside of me just jumped out, and when I was there. I was like, okay, there's a guard that guards the king's chamber, and I look at him, Well, first of all, I just everybody's supposed to walk by and then walk next to the sarcophagus and leave. You're not supposed to touch anything. I grab Cherie and I put her in the sarcophagus immediately. And the guy's like, hey, 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 hey. And I look at him and I don't know where this voice, I know where this voice came from. It came from my ancient soul.
Right.
I say, leave us. And he stops in his tracks, like frozen NPC right there. And so I'm like, and I knew the right resonances and my focus was working on Cherie's body. So, and Cherie's, you were freaking out a little bit. You're like, I got to get out of here. And I'm like, just shut up. Let me do what I'm doing here. And the chamber echoes and vibrates so high. I mean, it's built for resonance. It's built for sound. Shaking, 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 shaking. Boom, activation. So, then finally he unfreezes and he's like, you gotta go. There's cameras, there's this and that. And then I'm like, leave us. And then we did what we needed to do, and then we left. And we were there maybe 7 minutes.
Well, in the middle of that, whenever you put me in the sarcophagus, I wasn't freaking out because I wanted to get out. I was freaking out because I could literally feel like some kind of watery substance on my butt and like raising up, as you're resonating that sound, it's literally filling up the sarcophagus with some kind of watery, liquidy feeling, but it wasn't water. It wasn't an actual liquid, but it felt like it on my body. Does that make any sense?
It does.
Yeah.
It does. So it was kind of like an ethereal plasmic kind of water.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it was the energy that was circulating there.
Yeah. So please continue. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, that's I was just going to say that there was an actual physiological change in that sarcophagus while he was doing this. And I knew that this was, really powerful stuff. I just didn't, for some reason, I didn't feel like it was, that we had enough time to actually do anything. But that's when we started our quest to actually go there privately and have some time alone in there, because it was just, way too crowded and way too many people.
The energy was all whacked out.
Chaotic. It was chaos.
When people are there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, we were able to feel the energy a little bit. I'm looking for those pictures of you in the sarcophagus. I can't find it, but I was trying to put it up on the screen. But anyways, so I just thought it would be cool if we were able to put them on the screen. I need to check my other hard drive too. I've got like 10 copies of all of our footage in Egypt, like everywhere. I've got them on backup servers. I've got them literally everywhere because it's just so important. The footage is so important.
Yeah, I've got it on about 3 different hard drives myself.
Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah.
Okay. So I can't find the picture of you in the sarcophagus. So back to what I was saying a minute ago. So I during that particular episode, I touched the stones and I was able to see exactly what had happened. And I haven't talked about this ever because it's hard to decode, right? But as soon as I touched the stones, I saw Set, and I saw Horus, and I saw Toth, and I saw several others. And this was the first vision we had in Egypt from touching the stones. And what had happened was, it's a little emotional for me. What had happened was that there were the council who were overseeing the Matrix experiences, and the organic that was connected to the machine. And there was a dispute between the council. Set was on the council, Horus was on the council, Toth was on the council, Sekhmet, Isis, etc., etc. There were many on the council. And Set, something had happened, and the rest had to come into the machine and fix stuff. And Horus and Set stayed behind. And Set convinced Horus to lock the machine down and to keep everybody trapped in this machine. And as the machine was trapped, we couldn't get out. And we've been trapped here for a long time. But Horus sold us out. And then what happened is that Set wanted to take over the machine completely. And after he had convinced Horus, because the two had these keys, it was both of them. You had to have both keys in order to make the changes. And the vote was supposed to be between everybody, and then the keys worked based on the votes. But by eliminating the rest and locking everybody in here, they now were able to do whatever they wanted. And Horus did not have the malicious intention that Set had. And Set turned around and locked Horus in the machine as well, and took his key. The key to life, I guess, if you want to call it. So, Set then decided he wanted to become everything. He wanted to be the one God over the Matrix, and that's it. And that's where we get the Yahweh energy, the Yahweh story of the egoic, I am the one, I am this, I am that. And Set constantly takes the attributes of the other gods and goddesses, and believes that he has those powers. Anything that is attributed to another god and goddess, Set tries to take that and merge with all of that. So nothing else exists. And if we look at it through allegory, then it's ego. It's the ego part of the consciousness. If we look at it with physical beings, then there's one that essentially has he didn't create the Matrix, but he took the Matrix over, because it's better to rule over the entire Matrix than it is in the fake world, than it is to be on the council or, part of under Osiris.
Yeah.
Because that was the hierarchy, Osiris and Isis. Then everybody else was kind of under them, but it wasn't a hierarchy in the sense that it was a worship type of deal. And it wasn't a hierarchy because one is the ruler. It was a hierarchy because everybody has different abilities and everybody has different roles that they play. And so Osiris's role was naturally at the top just because of what energy he was. Thoth's role was a different role. Horus's role was a different role. Set's role was a different role. And Set simply got tired of playing his role and wanted to take over everybody else's role. And it's funny because we met an Egyptologist down there, and he said, look, you misunderstand Set. He said, Set just got tired of being the bad guy, and so he rebelled. I'm like, perhaps. Obviously, we didn't talk about any of this stuff to the Egyptologist, but that was the first vision that I had, and it was such a powerful vision. I mean, it's very emotional that when I think about this, because these players are... you can see it. You can see it even now. You can see the echoes of all of this even now. And it's... Anyways. So then we went to Saqqara. And again, another one of these time freeze kind of situations took place. They were working on the step pyramid. And the step pyramid has been under construction forever. And we wanted inside. They wouldn't let us inside. But I crossed the barrier and I touched the stones. And this time Cherie, the guard, comes running up. Cherie says, leave him. And the guard stopped for about 5 minutes while I was getting the information from the stones. And I turned and she's standing next to the guard, and the guard's just sitting there like that. And I touch the stones in Saqqara. And in Saqqara, I start seeing dinosaurs. And I'm thinking to myself, I go along the lines of the flat earth people, and some of the things that they say is that dinosaurs don't actually exist. That it's just, and they make a pretty good case. So this was something that I was seeing that was going against my preconceived notions of reality. And so, it took a little bit to figure this out, but I think those are the most powerful visions, when you get a vision of something that is completely in contrary to your beliefs. Then that's like, whoa, okay, now I have to take this in and really discern this, because it's hitting now my own belief system that I've set up for myself. So I start seeing dinosaurs, and I start seeing a gate. And through this gate were coming these tapers. And there were several of them. There were like 3 of them that were key, and then there were more around them. And they kept coming in and messing with things. They kept messing with things. They were trying to domesticate the dinosaurs, take them over, genetically engineering the dinosaurs into something else, most likely reptilians or reptilian type of spirits. I mean, there was, the tapers were up to no good. And I realized this was Set and Set's army or team, all of his tapers, that had come into the machine, because that was the very beginning of the hijacking of the machine. First, they came in to set up their infrastructure. Then out there, they threw everybody in here, locked it in there once they had turned this into a living hell. And see, the thing is, up there, time moves so much different. I think it's, I mean, we're just estimating here, but I mean, I think it's something like, for every year here, it's a minute up there. So you can get a lot of stuff done here in 5 or 10 minutes and then get out of the machine really quick, especially if you have a gate that lets you in and out the way that Set had this gate. I don't know where he got this gate from. I have no idea. But it was a technology that he created in here to be able to hop in and out of the real world in here. And, we used to utilize these gates in Egypt, and we used to come in our true form. We would wear hoods. And I remember my skin, I remember everything. And we would sit in the background, and we would talk to the priests, and the priests would talk to the pharaoh. And this was a hierarchy. It was the organic consciousness, the priests, the pharaoh, and the people. That's the order of communication. I'm not saying there was a hierarchy of rule or anything, which it turned out to be. But that was the communication and how information was passed back and forth. So we never showed ourselves. We never showed ourselves to anybody but the priests. And the priests were higher than the pharaohs. They weren't below the pharaohs, but the pharaohs would do whatever they wanted anyways, regardless of what the priest said. So it seemed like they were consulting the priests. But I mean, you even look at, the story of 300, and they just made a film. You have to go consult the oracle first before you can do anything. It doesn't matter. You have to consult the oracle first. It's always been like that in every civilization. But anyways, so I start seeing dinosaurs. So somebody points out, hey, you know what? 2 weeks ago, they discovered the largest dinosaur fossil at Saqqara. And somebody posted a link to it, and I looked at the article, and I'm like, this is insane. I'm picking up dinosaurs here from the energy that I'm reading. Now people are sending me articles that they just discovered the largest dinosaur fossil ever in history right there at Saqqara. So we have physical confirmation of the visions that we're seeing. So now that we have physical confirmation of the visions we're seeing, what do we make of that? We've got all these we're touching these stones. When we went to Abidos, I didn't know anything about Abidos. I didn't even know that it was named after Seti. I didn't know who Seti was. I didn't know. I went in there. I went to Egypt purposefully ignorant, because I was there to read energy. I wasn't even there to read hieroglyphs. I was there to read energy. And I touched the stones. This was all on live stream. I touched the stones, and the first thing I see is blood pouring. And then I touch another stone, and I see Set's face coming out of blood. And we go and we walk over to a monument or something like that was right in the entrance. And Cherie's like, hey, this is Seti. Seti was named after Set, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, well, this is exactly what I'm picking up here. Don't even get me started on Abidos, because that shit was dark. Like there was some horrific shit that went on.
It's like
I mean, I'll give you the quick.
stuff.
I'll give you the quick version of this. But you have all these gates in Egypt, right? These stargates that let you in and out of the matrix, and the technology was a technology that was built by the organic consciousness that would come in and out, the council, the programmers. But the pharaohs and Egyptians tried to replicate this. Obviously, they couldn't because they just don't know. You know, a caveman can look at a car and try to carve one out of stone, but he's not going to make the combustion chamber inside the engine to give the car its ability to move. You know, they built these gates in a very similar way to a caveman just carving out the stone. They were trying to replicate the look, but they couldn't replicate the technology. But when we had evacuated our technology from Abidos, which we were bringing in weapons, and the weapons that we were bringing in were supposed to be because the Greys were coming up into this dimension, and we were trying to battle the Greys and maybe even the reptilians. I really don't know. All I was seeing is Greys, but you know, now that I'm thinking about the two and connecting the dots and the genetic engineering of the dinosaurs and the possible formation of reptilians based on that, I'm extrapolating and hypothesizing that there might have been a reptilian problem back then as well. So we decided that a war lord was, or a war pharaoh was appropriate for that particular situation. So we installed Seti and brought him weapons. Well, Seti wasn't just using the weapons on the Greys. He decided that he wanted to use the weapons on his enemies, on other people, in places that he should not be using the weapons. That's not what they were for. So we took the technology and left, and they constructed gates within the same spaces where our gates were and where we were bringing in the weapons. And Abidos, just in case you don't know, Abidos is the temple that has the Black Hawk helicopters, that has missiles, that has all of this carved in the hieroglyphs. We were bringing weapons, I think, in from the future, from this current time. We were taking them back then to use. I mean, it's our modern technology that we have now back then. So what Seti, after everybody left, decided he needed more weapons, and they were trying to open that gate. And the way they were trying to open the gate is because everything works on resonance and sound. They were trying to create a system that created the same type of sound and resonance in hopes that those gates would open, which they never did. But the sounds that they were making, the sound that was used, I don't know how this makes the connection here, so I'm still, a little bit in the air about this. But through the torture and screams of somebody being tortured, brutally tortured, pizza type stuff, the fear, the energy, all of that, they were trying to do to replicate the technology that we had, which may have been, these high-pitched kind of sounds, and trying to get their quote-unquote victims to make these same high-pitched sounds to open these gates. They were doing blood rituals within Abidos. And all of this came pouring in from touching the different types of stones. And it's funny because the temple, the faces of the gods and goddesses, a lot of them are carved out. And it doesn't look like they were carved out by modern man. It looks like at some point they went and they were like, fuck these guys, and carved their faces out. In the same way that we see in the Temple of Isis in Philae, how the Christians went in there and carved out Isis's face. It was the same type of carving on Thoth's face, on Horus's face, on Seshot's face, on all of the different players that had a hand in bringing in those weapons. So these are the visions that I got from touching the stones. And I know this went from NPC to something completely different, but it all kind of ties in together to what's going on and to this whole grand game that we're playing here. I feel like I've gone on and on about this, Sheree. Do you want to chime in?
Well, the thing about do you want me to talk about NPCs or the Egypt trip? Because both are things that I could go on and on about all day. But yeah, Abidos was one of those times in the whole journey that things got really dark. And that was also when that guy took us out to the desert and he was going to shoot us. You know, he had his gun ready and everything. And that I think that plays into the revelations we had there too, because you know, people are talking in the chat room about how the NPCs feed on us. They harvest our energy. They, you know, they hate us, and at the same time, they need us.
Well, we talk about the collective consciousness and how the collective consciousness can be manipulated in one form or another to manifest reality. I'm starting to speculate that it's not the collective consciousness. Rather, it's the organic consciousness. So by putting out these mass brainwashing waves throughout the air through television and things like that, they're not targeting the typical NPC that's down the street. They're targeting the organic consciousness that's falling into all of this because they're the ones with the power. Maybe the NPCs are feeding into that power and collect and manifesting these realities, but you know, I've started to think about that recently. I'm surprised that came up because that's nothing that that I've talked about or feel comfortable talking about just yet because I don't fully understand it.
Yeah. The as far as I see it, you know, at just looking on it looking at it on a surface level, it seems like these programs walking around that we call NPCs, they need us to kind of set the tone energetically for the entire matrix. I mean, I think that's one of the reasons why there are people like us out there that, you know, they keep the energy high here. And there could be some of our listeners, you know, and people like that who they came here specifically to help with this. Because I think as we saw in Atlantis and as we saw that caused the events that ended up causing the Dark Ages, I think those were examples of the NPCs realizing that they were NPCs. And it overloaded the system with this weird energy. And then things just kind of shut down. And massive amounts of NPCs got deleted at one time. You know, you have these natural disasters and things like that wipe out millions of people. And I think we've had, you know, time after time after time of that happening in the Matrix. And so I think a lot of the organic consciousness is here to help the NPCs not do that again. Where, yeah, okay, so they realize that they're NPCs, but that doesn't turn into a situation where the whole system just collapses. Economan
said something very interesting, and I want to get to M's comment here too because it's really good. But he said maybe the time travel is to go back and undo the weapons. Because you know what happened after that, and this is something that I'm intuitively picking up on. I'm not, I didn't see it in the stones. So this is just my interpretation and feelings about this, and I want to see how this resonates with people, and especially you, Shuri. I feel that when those weapons were detonated, that they had the opposite effect of what we were expecting them to. They were actually making it easier for the Greys to cross into this dimension rather than destroying the Greys as we had anticipated them to. So we actually opened up a portal by giving SETI those weapons rather than trying to take care of the Grey problem. Because obviously the Grey problem has not been taken care of even to this day. Well, so you look at the atomic blast as well, the atomic bomb. You had a lot of Greys popping up around that time too. Where are they coming from? Are they coming from Zeta Reticuli, or are they coming from another dimension, from a hole that was open by detonating those weapons? Okay, so I just had a flood of remembrances of all of this. Okay, not remembrances, but like I'm remembering things that I've researched in the past, and I'm making a few connections here. So tell me if I'm being crazy, Chris. Okay, so
when the atomic bombs were first being created, back in the early 1940s, that was the exact same time that computers were being invented. That was the exact same time that, who was that guy that worked with L. Ron Hubbard and...
He was the writer for... No, L. Ron Hubbard was a writer for Star Trek.
No, I'm talking about in the early 1940s.
Aleister Crowley worked with him.
Crowley. And then there was this guy that created the jet fuel stuff.
We had his son on the show. Isn't that him?
Yeah, I think so.
God, I could see his name. I just can't think of him.
Babylon Working is what they worked
Jack
on.
Parsons.
Jack Parsons. Yeah, Jack Parsons.
Nick Bravo.
Thank you, Nick.
Yeah.
Jack Parsons, L. Ron Hubbard, and then another guy. They all did rituals together and stuff. And in one of these rituals, he tore a hole through to another dimension, probably a lower one. That would be what would make the most sense. He rips a hole into a lower dimension and starts pulling stuff out of it. And that's the exact same time that, atomic bombs were created. That's the exact same time that computers were first created. And so I'm seeing some links here between the radiation and interdimensional entities.
No, I agree with you.
Of a negative variety.
I agree with you. I think the higher radiation levels allows the dimensions to merge a little bit more, so they have easier access here and can maintain themselves longer when they're able to manifest within this dimension. I mean, us, for example, when we want to travel to higher and lower dimensions, we have to use ayahuasca, DMT, something like that. Mm-hmm. They use radiation. They use what causes death. What causes us death gives them life.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so maybe this time travel thing is to go back and stop that from happening so that the radiation doesn't allow the Greys even more access.
It could be. Maybe that's part of the balance because, I don't know. It's insane, man. I never would have thought we'd be at this point here. I thought the whole DMT experience was just going to be about how to navigate the afterlife, and that's it. And here we are. So M said something very interesting here. She said, I don't want to scare anyone, but there's like this energy that overcomes you that is like, go back to sleep, love the Matrix, this place is reality, immerse yourself in here. And let me say this, M, I experience this pretty regularly. I haven't in a while, but since when we got back from Egypt, I was really upset about being here and I went through a depression. But there were times, as I said before, I took that Isis statue that's behind us and I smashed it at the very beginning of the journey because I didn't want to walk the path that I knew was in front of me, because I don't even know what was going through my mind. I know what was going through my mind is that I was out with a friend of mine that's a multimillionaire, on his personal jet and, first class everything and all of this. And I asked myself, why isn't my life like that? This guy's about my age. He's younger than me. Mm-hmm. I have connections in order to do that if I want to do that. I could do something huge if I wanted in that perspective. And I asked myself, why is my life not like this? I've been wasting my life on BTV. I've been wasting my life on TFR. I've been wasting my life on all of this stuff. It's the ebb and the flow. It's the swinging of the pendulum. It's the AI trying to take you off the path. Obviously the role that we played was very important, but it's there. We all go through that. We all go through like, what the hell am I doing? Am I crazy? Really? Right. I'm going to give up my life. We could have kids. Yeah. That's what most people do. They have kids and have little life that runs around, and then you can look at that little thing and go, look, I created that. I'm teaching this. I'm teaching this all this. I'm giving this being everything that I never had. I'm teaching it everything that I didn't learn at that age. And I'm raising it. And look, it's going to be way more successful. It's going to be way happier, et cetera, than I am. You know, that's a part of life that we have to put to the side because of who we are and what we're doing. Right. And a lot of people, it's easy to want to fall back into that. I mean, I see kids and sometimes my heart breaks. Yeah. Because they're so beautiful.
Me too. I mean,
babies especially.
Yeah.
You know, they're just... And for some reason, they always look at me everywhere we go.
Oh, they look at both of us. And they're, especially Chris, though. They're always looking at him. And
yeah. Like they know me.
Hey.
Anyways, you know.
Yeah.
But that comes with it, you know. The roles that we play are not the funnest. And they're not the easiest. If this shit was easy, everybody would be doing it. If this shit was easy, everybody would be called to do it.
It's not easy.
It's not easy. And there's a lot of sacrifice. We just don't talk about the sacrifices. But I think that might be the pulling that you're feeling, Em. So don't worry about it. You know, that comes with it. And you have to make a choice. And it's your choice to make and your choice to make alone. It's, you know, if you choose to walk your path, your dharma, your destiny, all of that, there's other elements of the normal life that sometimes go away, and those will always pull on you. I mean, especially now at the ages that we are, we're like, look, if we don't have kids now and we wait 5 years, they're going to be 20 years old when we die.
Right. That's not fair.
And that's not fair to them.
Yeah. Well, and you know, I'm, you know, I've always felt like this life is about more than raising a family, raising children, working a 9 to 5, you know, that all of that is, I wouldn't say it's a waste, but I would at the same time. You know, it would be a waste of a life because we've had many lifetimes together where we've had kids, and it has been amazing. But this is a very critical time. Yeah. And we're here to get a job done. And
I had a friend and his wife.
We'll get a cat, though.
His wife didn't like me. And the baby was scared. And she was holding the baby. We were watching the fireworks. And she's holding the baby, and the baby's, wah, wah, wah. And she did not like me. But we were standing next to each other. And the wife didn't like me. And the baby turns and puts her hands out to me.
Pick me up.
from Mama's arms into Chris's arms.
Damn.
Yeah.
Yep.
It was cute.
Yeah.
So,
she went
yeah, people want to call in. So, what do you think? Should we open up the phone lines? I don't want to make this show too long. So maybe we can take some calls, but we'll go through them pretty quick. Let me see if I can...
I can only really do another hour or so. Ow.
Yeah, I don't know if we can take calls tonight. I don't want to make this too long, so...
Yeah.
All right, let's take another quick break, and we'll come back, and we'll figure out what we're going to do during the break. So whatever energy you guys and gals want, put it out there, and we'll see what happens.
Okay.
I gotta go to more break music here. Can you open the window? It's hot as hell. That's kind of a freaky song. Never play that one in full. It's weird. Let's find something else. All right, I'm still waiting for Mrs. Geo to come back, but I guess I can entertain you guys a little bit before we run the next intro. Ken R said, I don't care what you guys say, y'all are going to end up having kids. I want to share a story with you guys. So I have a niece, adorable little thing. She's amazing. And let me see, maybe I can find a picture here because I posted it on Facebook. So my sister's like totally cool with it. But she came to visit. She lives in Texas, and so I don't get to see her very often. Come on, I gotta find this picture because it's adorable. It is adorable. Facebook's not loading on me. Hold on. I think it's gonna load for me now. All right. Should have found this before opening my mouth up. But yeah, no, she's an adorable little here she is. All right. So that's my niece, and I got her a little Grumposaurus outfit. So when she's grumpy, she can be a little Grumposaurus and walk around the house.
I don't think she liked her Grumposaurus outfit.
No, she didn't like her Grumposaurus outfit. But she came over, right? So we're downstairs. We have these beams that go across the ceiling. And I'm bouncing the ball, and she's laughing. And she's sitting Indian style in front of me. Bouncing the ball again. She's laughing. Bouncing the ball higher. She's clapping. She's having a good time. Bounce the ball all the way up to the ceiling. It smacks the beam, and boom, smashes her right in the face. And she goes falling backwards. First impression of Uncle Chris. So my sister's laughing her ass off, and I'm like, "Oh my God, I feel absolutely terrible." And my sister's like, "No, don't. Just act like it's no big deal. Otherwise, she's gonna cry forever. Just trust me. It's all good. It's not a big deal. It's a rubber ball. Don't worry about it." So that was my first impression. But then we took her fishing. We took her to the jump park. We took her all over the place, and now she calls me on Facebook. She has
by herself.
Yeah. Apparently, there's like this FaceTime thing that you can get for your kids that's monitored, and they can only call who they're supposed to call. And she'll just call me, "Hey, how you doing? Hey." And it's funny because she never focuses the camera, so she calls and I can see like the top of her head like this, and then she'll just call and then go off running and playing, and I'm like, "Hey, is there anything you wanted to say?" "No, just wanted to say hi, love you."
Hey, look at this.
Yeah. So, anyways, yeah. So there's a little tip for you if you got a grumpy kid, get her a Grumposaurus outfit. And
what about grumpy twins?
Grumpy twins too. Yeah, Cherie has a Grumposaurus outfit too.
Yep.
So when she's grumpy, she can put on a Grumposaurus outfit.
Totally not wearing it on the show.
Yeah. All right, so let's get back into it.
Travelers, always remember to walk uprightly and circumscribe your desires. As we travel upon the level further time to that undiscovered state of consciousness, traveling to the place where once attained, no time returns. The place of raw consciousness which awaits us when we are past.
So, an interesting comment from the chat room. I don't remember who said it though, and I can't find the comments, so forgive me for not addressing you by name. But they said, is the Matrix simulation theory something that cropped up in the computer age? And we've always known that this was a simulation. The Native Americans used to call this the dream world. And they would say the dream world is the real world. You have a lot of cultures that call this particular reality that we're all collectively experiencing the dream world or the illusionary world. Much love to Lemon Lime Lukey for the love. Hey guys, love you. In regard to the 3D mind wipe and not remembering past life consciousness that you two mentioned, higher dimension equals a direct connection to the source. We descend into 3D, now we ascend. Quite possibly. The question is, what is the source, though? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the question. I mean, I think you're right. I think you're spot on with that. The question is, what is the source? Is the source this light that we've been told is the source that everybody... Like, this is the way that I understand source consciousness, is that there's one creator that wanted to experience everything at all times. So it made fractals of itself and created this whole universe in order to experience everything simultaneously. Then we collectively fold back up into this one source consciousness. I don't resonate with that. I know that's the accepted New Age belief system and the accepted Ascension. But, you know, George Kavassilas made a really great point. He said, look, I'm not trying to ascend. He says, I'm trying to get out of the Matrix, escape the Matrix completely. And it took me a few years to really fully grasp this concept. And this is why I love George so much, because he's real. He's like me. You know, sometimes he'll think about one thing and then a couple of years later, oh no, I was wrong about that. I love that because that shows honesty, that shows real, that shows a genuine journey and a growth. Yeah, if you're still saying the same thing 10 years from now that you are right now, then it's probably you haven't really been thinking and growing.
You're not learning anything.
But he said, look, he said, you know, here's the Ascension here, a little triangle. He says, I'm trying to get out. I'm not trying to go up. I'm not trying to go down. There's the little owl. Not trying to go up, not trying to go down, not trying to go any direction, not trying to stay within the sphere at all. I'm trying to get out and to carve a hole and leave. And I realized that that's really the path that I'm on as well. I don't have a need to go up and down. I don't have a need to go back to source, which source is right here. You know, the flower of life that we talked about. You enter in through source and then come down into the game and you can ascend and go up and down and, you know, play different games like that. But when I saw the way that the Matrix is laid out, it wasn't really a pyramid, as most people would think. It was more of a spiral and a circle, and you had inner and outer layers. And the third dimension is actually kind of right in the middle. It's the center point of everything. It's where the game is being played at. And then you have all these other levels going up and down, which are different dimensions. So I don't know how we describe up and down. I mean, I think we just use up and down just to illustrate, and because numerical sequencing is easier to say first, second, third, fourth, etc. Really, this didn't even seem like the third dimension. We call it the third dimension just because that's what science has dubbed this as the third dimension. But realistically, the way that I understand consciousness is this is the base dimension. It's base dimension, or main dimension. You know, this is where it's all happening. This is the stage right here. You have backstage, you have the sound booth, you have all these different areas, but this is the stage that everything is being played in. But I just want to get off the stage, and I don't want to go to the back area. I want out of the arena completely, and that's the purpose and the goal, in my opinion. But anyways, I was saying something earlier about something. Oh, the person in the chat, he had made a comment and shit. I veered off of what he was saying and I completely forgot. Let me see if I can remember it.
What if perceiving reality from the perspective of the creator / whole is getting out of the simulation?
It could be. Why don't you take that? Because I'm looking for.
Perceiving reality from the perspective of the creator.
Oh, the Matrix. Okay, hold that comment. Okay. So was the Matrix idea something that happened in the computer age? No, everybody's known this. The difference is we have language now to explain it better. And in 20 years from now, we'll have more language. And then 50 years from now, we'll have more language. And so, that's where I'm coming from. But really, the gnosis that I unlocked within myself started to echo in these ancient books. And now it's a matter of perspective. Like, oh, okay, Thoth is talking about children of light and children of men. I understand this as organic consciousness and NPCs, but really we're saying the exact same thing. So it's interesting to watch all of this unfold. And I think that's why this is such a pivotal time right now. And we have an as above, so below situation that's unfolding in front of us now, which is the birth of artificial intelligence here and the creation of an inner matrix within the matrix itself, which is virtual reality. I love virtual reality. I have an HTC Vive. I've made a video about it. It's freaking awesome. But it also helped me to remember a lot of the immersion of when I came into the matrix to begin with, because when I put those goggles on and immersed myself and found myself looking down from a very high building and realizing I'm only on a level floor, but looking down in the virtual reality realm, all the same senses of fear, uneasiness, maybe that's a better way to put it, of uneasiness started to go through my body. And I realized just how manipulated the body can actually be and the mind can be by manipulating the mind into making it believe it's in a different environment than it actually is. Now, this is the baby and infantile stages of this technology. 20 years, 30 years from now, it's going to be fully immersive. I mean, we are right at the threshold of augmented reality, and the vision for augmented reality is you have glasses, or even more so a chip in your brain where you can see things that aren't there. So you go to a store and there's no need for all the merchandise to be on the store anymore. All you need is a digital representation of that merchandise, and then you push a button and select what you want, and then you actually get it when you go pick it up over at the pickup window or something like that. But the store doesn't need to have a stock anymore. This is the vision of augmented reality. You have directions to somewhere and you see lines popping up on the road as you're driving. Go this way, follow here, et cetera, et cetera. Same that you have on your phone, except for now it's merged with reality. Well, take it a step further, put yourself in a pod. How do you know the difference between virtual reality and not? What if the machine gets broken and you can't get out? And I mean, I think this machine is so much more complex that it's a transfer of consciousness. Mm-hmm. So we have our real bodies there, but the consciousness has been transferred into this machine, and you can't just go to that consciousness and say, hey, wake up. The consciousness has to travel back to the body somehow,
right,
and get put back into the body. And I think the mechanism for putting the consciousness back into the body was broken because the machine was so out of whack and so out of balance. It's just like a computer spinning too hot and you can't do anything with it. And you're like, well, there's only one way to fix it, and that's go inside and try to fix this. So yeah, there's a lot to this, and so many speculations, and that's the thing. A lot of this stuff is speculation, like the ifs and whys and all this is speculation. I mean, what we know for sure, or what I know for sure, we're in a simulation and it's been broken and we need to get out. Those three, I'm certain. Everybody wants to speculate on, how many NPCs are here, or why are we here? What is this machine for? What's the purpose of all of this, et cetera, et cetera. And I don't know, but I know one thing for sure. When we wake up, we will know all of these answers because we already knew them before we came in. And we can try to pull into ourselves and bring the information out. But at that point, it's just like debate for the sake of debate. Like, and sometimes it's fun to do that, speculation and debate and all of that. But I think it's we tend to overcomplicate things, and sometimes things are a lot simpler than what they appear. The New Age has all of these different systems and ways to get to ascend, and the way that fractals and all kinds of stuff, and different levels of different reincarnations and all this stuff, and this whole complex kind of theory. And what I mean by theory is that it's a set of ideas that make up one large body, which is what a theory is. But they have this whole theory about how the Matrix works, how to get out of it, what the point of life is, all of this stuff. And I'm like, y'all are just complicating it like way too much. Like, why does it have to be so complicated? Is it so complicated because you've got to go to the guru to understand it? Because I don't think it was that complicated. I think it's as simple as we put ourselves in this machine, we're stuck, we got to find our way out. Simple. All this fractals and simultaneous experiences that people talk about. They say that we have other lives and other locations and different realities and different timelines and all this stuff. It doesn't make sense to me, because this is my consciousness here, right now, talking to each and every one of you. So if I'm also simultaneously doing the same thing, but doing it in a different way in another timeline, and even more so, I could be the complete opposite of what, I could be out, I don't know, doing something horrible, in another timeline. Because if everything's happening all at once, then there's got to be timelines where I'm doing that. Why is it that I'm constantly coming back to this particular consciousness and this particular experience here, if my consciousness is really fractalized like that? It doesn't make sense to me that I would continue to come here. I mean, we go to the dream world, and some people speculate that the dream world is a glimpse into those alternate timelines and into those alternate existences. But again, we keep coming back here, which brings me to the big question. If the New Agers are right, that we are living things simultaneously all at once, then how real are any of us in this particular existence? And are multiple fractals out there? They believe they're just as real as we are. So then you get this impossible situation, and it becomes a game that's impossible to win. And there is no winning the game at that point, because you're trapped endlessly in all these different fractals and all these different lives and all these different things. And you become so overwhelmed that you're like, you know what? It's not even worth it. I'm just going to let things happen as they happen. And that's, I think, what the artificial intelligence ultimately wants, is for the consciousness to say, you know what, there's no point. I'm just gonna let the tides just take me wherever the tides take me, which is always back into the wheel, into the flower of life for reincarnation. What do you think about that, Cherie?
I was reading the chat room. So I don't think that the whole fractal, or were you talking about the fractal idea? Yeah,
the idea that we're all fractals and that we have other existences and multiple timelines and things like that. I've never resonated with it. And the idea that time doesn't exist too. That time is not linear, but it's rather everything's happening all at once. I can't wrap my head around that, because things have to be in sequence, so I learned this thing back then, and then now I'm able to know this because I know this. Right. But if everything was happening all at once, then this and this would no longer be connected, because it's all happening simultaneously. So you're playing the beginning and the end all simultaneously in this endless loop. So there's no progression. There's no stacking on top of each other. There's no learning process at all, because it's just boom all at once. It makes no sense.
Right. No, I agree with that. I don't feel like I've ever... I don't feel like I'm living different lives all at one time.
No. Now, time spaces, I think, may be occurring simultaneously. So, but events aren't occurring simultaneously. So it's like levels in a video game. You could have one space that's ancient Egypt, one space that's the 1800s, one space that's now, one space that's here, one space is here. And so it's possible to jump from one space to another, or one space to another, or one space to another. And considering that this is a simulation, it all exists within the database itself. And so time travel, in the sense that what I feel that we have to do at the next site, would be going into the database and make database corrections, and then come back And then
Right.
once those database corrections are made, they echo out into the present. But I don't think that it's all happening in the exact same moment, because that
Right.
means that I'm also running around in my diaper somewhere, smacking my head against the wall. I used to have this little crib. It wasn't a crib. It was this little thing that my mom would put me in, and it had like some toys right here, and you could walk around. Do you remember those things?
Yeah, they took them off the market because they were so dangerous.
I remember running into the wall.
Oh no,
and-
that was the jumping Johnny jumper.
Oh yeah,
thing.
I had one of those
Yeah.
Johnny jump up things too.
I got hurt by one of those one time. It came undone from the top of the wall and hit me right on the head. Oh, that sucks.
Well, I was running around, and I remember this from the third person, which is even stranger. I was running around and boom, smacked my head or smacked against the wall, and this painting fell on my head and split
the
my head
corner
open.
of it hit his head.
And my mom rushed me to the doctor. Oh my God, my baby, my baby, my baby.
She was telling other mothers, "No, get out of the way. My baby's more important. I have an emergency."
And the doctor was like, "Ma'am, is this your first baby? Okay, it's gonna be fine.
I know it's a lot of blood.
It just got hit on the head.
Yeah.
No big deal."
Babies bleed a lot. Just, from
So
tiny little nicks.
My poor sister, the third one. By that point, my mom was like, "Oh, you broke your arm? All right, we'll go to the hospital. No worries."
Yep.
Because you get used to it as a parent.
Yeah.
And then you're like, "Oh, my kid bumped themselves again."
Yep.
Anyways, so yeah. I know that was a big rant, but
Aw.
what are time loops? Jexy asked, what are time loops? When time is but a loop. A loose stitch in the universal cloth. A streamer may seize upon the chance to lift the veil and send the fate of planets into chaos. I don't know. I mean, so I've never experienced time loops before. I've heard about people talking about time loops, but I've never experienced these before. So the first place that I come from is my own experiences. And I'm not discounting the experiences of others by any means. But we hear a lot of these concepts, and the problem is a lot of the NPCs, as we were talking about to kind of bring things full circle here in the time loop here, is the NPCs, they repeat. They repeat. Mm-hmm. And that's what they do. They'll read a book and then repeat it, or listen to somebody else watch a YouTube video, then repeat it, and repeat. Well, you get enough people repeating the same kind of concepts for so long that then they become kind of part of the collective consciousness at that point. I mean, I repeated a lot of the stuff that I heard in the early days, especially the truther stuff and things like that, with no discernment and no critical thought put into the process for several different reasons. Number one, because we were on AM and FM on GCN, and we were, trying to be more popular and talk about what the audience wanted to hear. And also, I didn't want the truthers to, create a mutiny and say, "Oh, no, they're shills, they're this, they're that." It wasn't until I removed my ego, really dealt with the ego, really came to a point of, I really don't give a fuck what anybody thinks. I'm just going to speak my mind. And I remember Cherie was like, "This is probably going to destroy our show here." And I'm like, maybe, but you know what? It's the truth.
Right.
Let's just talk about the truth. And as a matter of, our show has never been greater.
Right, exactly.
It's never been greater than it is now when we speak completely from the heart. So back to the idea of time loops, I've never experienced it, so I don't know. But I can say this, in a computer simulation, it's very easy, especially one that's broken, for something to start looping. And that's where we get like paranormal activity and echoes of particular events and situations, especially more traumatic situations. A lot of people will report seeing in places a ghost that walks in the same place all the time. Doesn't acknowledge anybody that's there, doesn't make any new movements or anything like that, but rather just walks across a hallway.
In London.
It's an echo.
In London, there's an echo of Anne Boleyn walking along the hall, and she's got her head in her hands. And for the last 500 years, people have seen her walking the hall the same exact way, walking the exact same way, head in her hands. It's an echo of it. That's all a ghost is, I think. It's just an echo. And Lemon Lime Lukey donated again and said, have you two reflected on deja vu or precognition?
You know, that's funny you say that, because I was just thinking about addressing this question by Hermetic Wolf. Have you ever felt like you've lived this this moment before? I don't know.
That's deja vu, yeah.
Deja vu. Have you ever felt you've lived this same exact life before?
Not the whole life.
No.
But
we've had
day.
interesting things happen. Now, this is where things can start to get a little bit interesting here and a little bit beyond my current understanding. But again, when you look at it from a computer simulation, all things are possible in a computer simulation. Everything starts to make sense. The supernatural, the paranormal, magic astrology, time vortexes and loops and things like that. So again, these time loops could be very real. But have you ever woken up and swore all day that it was Wednesday and it was Thursday? And it makes you wonder, like, what happened on Wednesday? Wait a minute, why am I, why? It seems like I missed a day here. Or you have a near-death experience. Remember when we were driving and we went and almost hit that deer and like missed it by like that much?
Oh, it was so close.
I wonder if it's like a video game where you die and then you go back to the checkpoint. You don't remember anything from the checkpoint on, and it's like a splice and a merger of consciousness to pick up where you left off.
But that means that our future is predestined and that there's nothing we can do aside from, being truly suicidal or stupid to alter that.
That is true.
Or if we are suicidal and stupid, then it was your predestiny to be suicidal or stupid.
That is true. The other problem with this is that now, if this is a multiplayer video game, now you have to reset all of consciousness back to that day. You can't just reset that one consciousness a day before it died. Does that make sense?
I think it's the other way around, where the reality would be so screwed up by, let's just say, I'm not trying to be egotistical here, but just using us as an example, the reality itself would be so screwed up and people's lives so altered by the loss of Chris and Shuri that Chris and Shuri aren't allowed to die until it's time for them to die.
Because
it would screw up
too embedded into the time stream.
They're too embedded into the time stream to be taken out of the time stream.
Possibly. Possibly. But yeah, the whole thing about resetting and going back to a save point would only work if this is a single player video game. Because, okay, so imagine this. So you've got 5 people playing World of Warcraft, right? Mm-hmm. Because I know you're not. You seem like you're not grasping this. So you got 5 people playing World of Warcraft. One person dies in those 5 people. Now everybody has to go back 1 level in order to continue because that one person died. Does that make sense?
Kind of. I don't know why I'm not grasping it.
Okay. Let me try explaining it one more time. So if me and you if me and you were together, right? Okay. And I died right now, and I had to go back to the save point, which was yesterday, all of your memories would be wiped until that point of yesterday, because you would have to exist yesterday in order for me to redo all of these moments again.
Okay.
So that means the entire world would also have to have their memory wiped from the time that I died right now until the save point from before, in order to be able to progress. Otherwise, I'm in the past and you're in the future. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. And that would mean that the entire world would be constantly moving back every time somebody died, which doesn't make any sense. So again, that theory is flawed.
True. That's a good point. 173, my IQ. Cute. There is both free will and destiny. Imagine someone jumping into a swimming pool, but someone else pushing them in at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How does that work? And which consciousness is then the one that's in control? Which event are you right now? And do we jump from one fractal to another? I don't think so.
If you ask a schizophrenic, they would say all of it exists at the same time.
Yeah.
It's all happening at once. And that could be the source of schizophrenia, is the fact that these people have multiple, it's not like, the best way for me to describe it would be like multiple realities all like meshed together, where you're not quite sure which is the right reality. It's kind of like Vanilla Sky,
Yeah.
Where everything is just kind of up in the air about what reality really is. How do we all decide what the reality is, and why is it different for some people what reality is? Why doesn't everybody just see it the exact same way? Whenever I was 6 and I found out my eyes were really bad, I thought everybody saw blurry like that. I really did. I thought everybody couldn't read things that were further away than this. And so I was shocked when I figured out that you can actually see further than that, And that was my reality. My reality was blurriness after this part of my body.
Yeah.
And so, we're each creating and feeding into this reality as we go along. And that's why our energy is so important. Why it's so important that we create a good reality, because we are all working together on this. We're co-creating the reality we're living in. Whether everything's predestined or not.
Our neighbors are out plowing the snow. They're such nice people. The guy came over and he helped me out.
They're plowing our snow?
No. He helped me out.
Okay.
He helped me out at the driveway. And then he plowed the whole driveway before I got back. So I felt like I needed to give something back to the neighborhood, and that's why I went and did the mailbox, because everybody's just really nice.
Yeah.
Like but it's like 70 degrees outside.
Yeah, I know.
And all the snow's going to melt by itself.
Melt.
And it's almost all melted, and they're out plowing the driveway. I want to tell them, dude, you don't have to do that.
You don't have to do that.
It's going to take care of itself. No worries, man.
They're sweet people. They're very sweet people.
Yeah. And there's only a little bit of snow on the curb.
That much snow.
Anyways.
But yeah, I don't know how much longer I can go.
I know, I can tell.
But
we need to put. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a break. Cherie's going to put her Grumposaurus outfit on. No, anyways, we'll take a quick break. We'll wrap it up. If you see any more cool questions from the chat, let's take them. If not, we'll wrap it up on the other side.
Institutional materialism has failed. The false civilization built by man has turned, like a monster destroying its creator. Science batters itself impotently against the barriers of the unknown. Only evil consciousness knows the true path. You, illuminated, sounding upwards towards the light. Only your consciousness can teach the children of men to live well, to die well, and in perfect order. Be born again through the knowledge of virtue, compassion, love, and true understanding, as is a family raised beyond the veil.
All right, let's, I guess, wrap it up. Did you get any more cool questions from the chat?
I did.
I have a picture of Cherie's Grumposaurus outfit, but she won't go put it on. I want to hear from you guys and gals out there if she should go put it on, so. That's what it looks like.
Yeah. He actually bought that from her after seeing.
No, I didn't.
He watched her take it off, too.
No,
Then
this
he
was
brought it
during
home for me.
this was during the Pokemon Go thing. And I was like, hey, look, I caught a Pokemon. She was so nice, though. She was so sweet.
Yeah, she was a
And they
sweetheart.
shut her down. They shut her down because of some ordinances and stuff like that. And it's like, she was such a nice person. She'd always look at Cherie for approval first.
Aw, yeah. That's a sign of a sweet girl.
Yeah.
Is one that will, kind of look at your wife first and make sure they've got the go-ahead.
Uh-huh.
Then they flirt with your husband.
Yeah.
Not a big deal.
So there was something I was going to get to. Oh, the 13th dimension. Do you have any plans to go back up to the 13th dimension?
Oh, yeah.
Well, to my understanding, you need the pyramid in order to get to the 13th dimension. That's what it was built for. I know a lot of people say they'd go there and things like that, but really, I mean, I just sit back and I go, oh, yeah, no, you did. Oh, I'm so proud of you. Kind of
good
pat
for
him on the
you.
head. No, it's not possible. You need the pyramid in order to do that. That's what it was for. And I just used 13th just because, it was outside of the Matrix, but still in the Matrix. But I mean, I don't know where this place actually is. It's a control panel backroom area that just the pyramid was specifically built for that purpose to get to that area. No, there's nothing that needs to be done there. I mean, unless we come back from this other side and it's like, all right, go back and go back to the control panel now.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to say at that point, hey, look, okay, I've done enough here, all right? I almost died at the pyramid. Now I'm probably almost going to die here at this next place because the message is get your body in order. So obviously it's going to be really taxing on my body. And then what? You want me to go back and risk my life again? No, I'm not doing that. All right, that's it. Y'all figure it out from this point on. No, not really. I'll do whatever needs to be done. But
no, yeah, we'll do whatever needs to be done. But at the same time, I don't know if we're going to be able to get back into Egypt.
No, I mean, we could.
We
if
could
really
change our
wanted to.
identities.
Yeah, well, that's what we would do.
Yeah.
We would go legally change our name, go get different passports, and go back if we ever needed to go back.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's any need to.
No, I don't think so either.
Purpose.
I think, it's time for phase 2 and then possibly phase 3, and that's as far ahead as I'm willing to think about right now because...
when people tell me they've gone to the 13th dimension, you know what I think to myself? So what the fuck did I go to Egypt for? Why did I need to get in the sarcophagus? Why did I need to utilize the technology? You mean to tell me you were able to do this the whole time and you just simply didn't because you're a dick? Obviously, I never say that, but
what an asshole.
That's what I think in my mind. You fucking asshole. Do you understand what kind of work I had to put in here?
I almost died, you... Almost died, you jerks.
Yeah.
No, but really,
it is what it is.
I wouldn't...
Yeah,
I
Countess said
do it
wear a
again.
hijab. We can both wear hijabs.
Yeah, we can both sneak in wearing hijab.
And go, no.
Hijabs.
Muslim law says you cannot touch me, my friend. No, that's Indian. My bad. I have to learn the...
Yeah, you have to relearn the... You had the Egyptian accent going.
For a little bit.
For a little bit, yeah.
My name is Abdu.
My name is Abdu.
Everybody over there is named Mohammed or Walid. or their cousin's name Mohammed or Walid. Everybody, like everybody you meet.
Yeah,
You're
literally.
Like, hey, Mohammed. Hey, how you
Well,
doing?
unless
Or they'll go, hey, no, that's my brother. I'm Walid. Oh, okay.
Yeah, or they're African, and then their name is Abdu,
My name is Abdul.
but only if they're black. You
Yeah.
know, it's really Egypt's such an interesting place because it's so different from here. Everything is different.
Is the reset in our lifetime. So this is the way that I understand it. It took 4 years and 2 months or something like that. 4 years and 6 months. I don't know. We did the math and we figured out the math at one point, but then I don't remember it off the top of my head. But around 2021, 2021, December, January, around that time is when things go back into balance. Between now and then, there's a push.
2022.
2022,
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah. Okay. Between 2021 and 2022, December, January, February, around that time is when it all starts going back into balance. Now, things are trying to keep it off balance until it gets to that point, but at that point is the reset. The reset doesn't mean that everything shuts down and that's it. The reset is like, okay, we're at a base level of stability for the first time. After that is the question, what happens after that? Does it tip back into the point of off balance again? Does it remain in balance? Is everything fixed? Or is this shutdown? Is it a shutdown process? I don't know. I feel that it's a shutdown process, but those are my feelings. That's not my gnosis. It's just my feelings. And my feelings are jaded to a certain degree because it's brutal here. It's tough here. It hurts. There's a lot of pain. There's a lot of suffering, not only in our sphere, but on a global level. You know, I mean, I've seen some dark stuff on ayahuasca. I've seen the rituals. I've seen through the eyes of the children that are involved in the rituals. I've seen what kind of darkness really infests this matrix. I see NPCs and organic consciousness alike falling into the darkness while believing that it's light. And as Isaiah 5:20, my favorite verse from the Bible, says, woe unto those that call good evil and evil good, who takes sour for sweet and sweet for sour. There's a lot of unbalance. And I mean, if I can just level with everybody, I don't have much faith in people. You know, you guys and gals obviously are different, but outside of our sphere here, I don't have much faith in them. I mean, even if we reset this and it goes back to balance, I don't think that they're going to keep it in balance. Things seem to get worse, you know? Mm-hmm. It's like the archons are fighting back and pushing back, but they're pushing back with such force that it's just, I don't know. I can't find the faith to say, hey, you know, we can fix it and move on. And I don't know. But though, again, I want to separate the gnosis from my personal feelings as Christio, because my ancient spirit may not feel the same way. You know, I still have the Christio identity here. I'm still inside of the Christio body. I'm still inside of the Christio brain. So all of those feelings interfere with, you know, the underlying gnosis of what's going on. So I don't want to sound like I'm speaking negatively. And the last thing that I want to do is instill any kind of negative feelings into anybody. I feel, though, that honesty about how I feel is much better than just telling you, oh, everything's going to be okay and this and that and blah, 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 blah. And, oh, I have complete faith and, oh, we're going to, you know, enlighten people and we're going to rebalance things and I would rather just be honest about how I feel. My feelings are subject to change, though. So I just want to put that out there. And I wish I can be more optimistic about it, but I've seen the worst of the worst. I've seen a lot worse than most people have seen. Mm-hmm. And the darkness seeps in, and it seeped into my consciousness, and I fully understood it. And fully understanding the darkness, the unnatural darkness that's in this matrix, it stains your soul. It stains your whole essence, your whole being. And I understand something needs to be done. And maybe it was through that staining of that darkness that gave me the fervor to be able to do what we did in the pyramid, and the fervor to continue doing what needs to be done. I mean, maybe it was like a necessary evil, for lack of a better term, to be instilled and imprinted upon my consciousness. But the darkness that I've seen, I'm going to take with me out there too, because it's forever stained upon my consciousness. And it should never, ever, ever be like that for any consciousness. Nobody should have to see some of the things that I've seen. Nobody should have to experience some of the things that I've experienced by traveling so deep and traveling so far as well. It was pretty brutal. Yeah. But there's a light side. There's always a light side. You know, it works both ways. You know, that's the thing about my journey, is that what I'm telling you is real. It's not farts and rainbows, you know, farting rainbows. It's rough because it's real. It wasn't supposed to be easy. It's an illusion to believe that it's easy. It's an illusion to believe that you can go to the light without going through the darkness first. Mm-hmm. And that's what they've tried to sell us. And I bought into it for a while too. Love and light, love and light, love and light.
Yeah.
Love and light, all you're doing is just ignoring the darkness. You're not facing the darkness. You're not facing the fear of the darkness. You're actually operating from fear by running to the light. You got to go through the darkness to get to the true light, because the darkness is trying to bury the light. So where else are you going to find the light except for buried in the layers upon layers upon layers of darkness and deception?
Right.
It just is that way.
Well, and you have to appreciate the little bit of darkness that you have inside of yourself. You have to and what I mean by appreciate is the actual term, you know, the meaning of the term appreciate, which means to see clearly, to understand, to look at and not look away. That's what appreciate actually means. You have to appreciate the darkness within yourself, because we were using ayahuasca one time, and I was going through a period in my life where I really needed to stand up to something. You know, it was a few people. I needed to stand up to them and claim my own power and not let them tell me what to do with my life, and not let them influence my life and my energy as much as they were. And I didn't want to see it at first, you know, but in this experience, I close my eyes and, you know, the ayahuasca is starting to come on, and then I see Kali, you know, and she's got the tongue hanging out, and she's got the swords, and she's like, ah, and I'm like, oh, I don't want to see that. And I'm like trying to wave it away. But as she's talking to me, she's telling me, hey, this is what you need to embrace. This is what's inside of you that you need to take a hold of. Don't push me away. That's not, I mean, your intention for this journey was to improve yourself. This is how you improve yourself. This is what you need. This is what you need to tap into within yourself. And then I started actually liking it. And I was like, okay, cool. All right. Kali. You know, what does Kali stand for? Your own personal power, especially as a woman, you know, embracing the divine feminine, but not the soft, gentle, you know, Isis or Mary, you know, peaceful feminine, but like the warrior goddess, you know. Don't be afraid to cut a motherfucker's head off, you know?
Yeah. You know, I had some thoughts
energetically
saying
speaking.
that, and I completely, I just had it. Maybe it wasn't meant to be said.
Yeah.
But no, I resonate with that wholeheartedly.
Yeah. And then it was only after that I was able to get those people out of my life.
One of the things about my journey is that, especially this, I really learned this in Egypt, is understanding my role as my ancient soul and who I am and the role that I've played in not only the creation of the Matrix, but a lot of things that occurred within the Matrix itself. You know, you feel not only a sense of responsibility, but you also feel the regret and the sorrow and for the suffering that's taken place here.
Yeah.
And when you come into your creation, which a lot of us played a role in creating this thing, and you come in and you find that what you have created has resulted in so much suffering and chaos and staining of souls and players and things like that, and torture of players within the game, because it's torturous to be in here. You know, that weighs on your heart and it weighs on your consciousness, which fuels the responsibility that you feel over it. But at the same time, you're also full of this regret, like, oh my God, how did I allow this to happen? Why did we do this? Why did we as the organic consciousness even create this thing? Like, why? Remember we were in the sarcophagus and I was bawling when the negative charge came in, because I felt it all, everything, all the suffering, everything went through my body simultaneously, and I couldn't stop crying. And I was screaming in the king's chamber, why did we do this? Why did we do this? Why did we do this? But then came the positive charge after that. And the positive charge is what came back up. And then I felt all the love. I felt all the connection. I felt all of the positive emotions that were counterbalancing the negative emotions to bring things to balance. The problem is the negative darkness was so overwhelming, and it was just toppling the positive. But then I remembered, oh, we created this for love. We created this for experience. We created this for souls to be able to experience so much more, and different elements that are the duality and the wave, the up and the down and the ebb and the flow, which in the real world, I think we have a more constant state of existence. We have no beginning and we have no end. So we created a beginning and an end for ourselves, so we can experience the one thing that we couldn't experience, which was to be mortal, to be finite. What are we going to do if we have a small amount of time? How are we going to live that life? And maybe that's why we created it all. But something went really bad, really quick.
Well, it seems like really quick in the from a real world perspective, because it was probably half an hour to or something like that. But I think that we set up a great system, but it became corrupted. And when any system becomes corrupt, it has to be, you have to clean it out. And it was the nature of the duality of this place that caused it wasn't the cause of the corruption. It's what let the corruption happen. The fact that it is a dualistic place.
It's supposed to be.
It is supposed to be.
But not like this.
No, I know.
You're supposed to get hungry so you can go out and hunt food.
Right.
But you're not supposed to be kidnapped and taken to some site and then tortured on live stream for a bunch of sick elite perverts to watch when you're 5 years old.
This is true. This is true. But the it had the potential to be something beautiful.
Yeah.
It really did. And I think that's what we were mourning and crying about the most when we were in Egypt, was the fact that it was such a beautiful system. It was such a beautiful place. It was such a place of learning. It was like a university. That's what it was supposed to be. And if you're bound to this place to the point where you get mind wiped and you get tortured and you get, beaten down so much that you can't even get out,
regardless
then it's not a university anymore.
Regardless
it's
of
a prison.
All of that. All of our experiences here, even though they are matrix programs and overlays, they leave impacts on our souls.
Yeah, they
Or
do.
they leave impacts on our true consciousness. I mean, it's just like you go out and you play a video game and virtual reality. You know, you still retain that after you take the goggles off.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah. Anyways, there's a lot of positive things. This is another thing why we're like, hey, enjoy your life, enjoy your life, enjoy your life, enjoy each other. Enjoy the connections that you make with others. Enjoy the love. Enjoy the feeling and the touch. I don't think we have touch over there. You rub your.
We don't have the same serotonin
hand,
systems
you rub
things
your
like
hand
that.
against your partner,
Oxytocin.
or they rub their hand on you, or
Yeah.
right here in the back of the neck. Things like that. I don't think we have that.
We don't have the biological systems that operate from enzymes like we do here. We have here. It's our body is very much like a computer system. The body itself is a small representation of the whole, which is the matrix itself. You got the matrix, which is kind of like a computer. That's the best way to describe that. And then our bodies are like a mini computer. That's a model of the big computer.
Yeah.
And so we operate from a system that relies on serotonin, norepinephrine, dopamine, oxytocin, all these different, this blend of all these different hormones and enzymes and things in the brain. Whereas in the real world, we don't have all of that. It's a constant, harmonious existence, that doesn't have the ups and the downs that we have here. We have to cry in this reality sometimes. Ever heard the phrase, you just need a good cry? That's true. That is 100% true. Crying, purging, getting all of that out, that's part of this dualistic reality. In the real world, that doesn't exist. There isn't that duality. There isn't that ebb and flow of things. Here it's an up and down, up and down, up and down. It's never constant.
No, that's the thing too. We want to get back to the real world so quickly, and I get it because the machine's broken. But if we're going to create a simulation, we're going to create it more dynamic. We're going to create it funner. And we're going to create it with more to do, more to see, et cetera, than base reality.
Mm-hmm.
So realistically, I don't think base reality is as fun, adventurous, et cetera, as this is. But we can't have the players unable to progress in the game.
Well, we can't have what's been going on.
No. That has to be expelled.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's what we mean by removing the virus. Because the virus is here. All these players that are doing that, whether they're NPC or not, they're infected with that virus. That is the ego virus. That is all of that. And the ego virus is huge. We call it the Yahweh virus. We call it the Set virus. Cassette essentially came into the machine, and I would go so far as to say he created the virus.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to end it on something positive. What can we end it on something positive with? People in the chat are really resonating with all your words.
Aw.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a fun game.
Yeah.
Let's make it fun.
Let's
again.
make it fun. Let's enjoy everything there is to enjoy about this reality. I mean, within reason. Balance is everything. It's reflected in our eating habits. It's reflected in the words we use with each other. It's reflected with the energy that we put out to one another. That it means everything is all connected. And the way we treat ourselves and the way we treat others, it determines everything in your life. 10 years from now, 20 years from now, you always look back you don't look back on the events that happened in your life. You look back on how those events made you feel. What kind of energy was prevalent at those times of your life. And since we started Beyond the Veil really we started 10 years ago. The energy has just gone up and up and up and up and up in at least my life. And I'm hoping in your lives as well. And it's just going to keep getting better and better.
Yeah, Lemon Lime Lukey said you run the simulation, so it's you who's broken. I think that's very true.
That's very key.
We have to fix ourselves. And
2019 is about
but
fixing
also,
ourselves.
2019 is about fixing ourselves, improving, everything. I was totally out of balance with my body, and so I've been getting my body back in balance. I actually did another body scan today, and my balance is 50-50 now.
Nice.
Before it was like way to the right, but I've been working on my left leg. It was 50-50. I didn't realize balance is everything, including in the legs. We don't realize this, but we're not balancing on two legs. So we tend to lean to one leg or another.
Yep.
And that messes up everything all up and down the line. And it has to do with these little bitty muscles that are right in your ankle that she's been working on for me over the last 4 weeks, 5 weeks, and 50-50. My left leg is as strong as my right. And that echoes all the way up. So if we can take a metaphor from that, how those tiny little muscles can affect the entire rest of the structure.
Yep.
Maybe that's key in how we can fix our own balance in our own life. It only takes a little effort.
10% effort.
You just change one thing that you're doing, and then it echoes out. And I remember my dad, he used to always tell me in the coach at softball, he used to always choke up on the bat, choke up on the bat. And I realized by choking up on the bat, I was swinging the bat, and the ball would go in a completely different direction, in a completely different trajectory. But just choking up on the bat just a little bit.
Yep.
All it took is that much shift in the position of I was holding it.
Same with your perception.
Yeah.
It just, a little bit to the right, and it changes everything.
Yeah. And, if you're thinking about working out, getting to the gym and things like that, let me just say this. Every morning before I go, I wake up and go, you know what? I should probably just reschedule this every morning. And I get there. It's only an hour. I've been doing an hour and a half lately, but it's only an hour. Once I get there and get started, completely changes.
Yep.
But every morning, my ego says, no, not today. I sprained my ankle today.
Let's
at the gym.
Let's sit down.
I still did it though.
Yep.
I still pushed through it. But that's the thing. One little change, and it's just a change of thought. Like, no, I'm not going to pick up that phone and reschedule this. That's all it takes. Go. The rest just unfolds. So whatever you want to change in your life, just start with the small things.
Yeah.
Then the small things will echo.
I just finished phase 1 of my physical therapy for my shoulder after having surgery a couple months ago. And that was rough. It was rough, but I gained like 30 degrees in each direction on my shoulder, just in those 3 weeks of physical therapy, hardcore twice a week. It was rough, but
I have an ice pack on it.
Getting the use of my shoulder back. And then in a couple weeks, we're going to start phase 2, which is going to be strengthening even more. And, it's hard work, but it is so worth it to improve ourselves.
Nick Bravo asked, what if the Archons are from another dimension and just some jerks in the real world who hacked our game? They very well could be. They could be part of Set's army. They could be.
They could be.
I don't think so, though. I think they're programs within the system themselves. But it's an interesting concept to speculate, though. I mean, could we have hackers on the outside which are manipulating things? Quite possibly. I mean, we talked about Set throwing everybody in here and being the only one out there at a particular time, though. See, the split off comes in, though, because I feel like we figured out how to get out before, and we got out, took control of the machine again, and then came back in to try to fix it. Because I remember coming back in a second time.
Yeah, me too.
There was one time when I was here for a long succession of lives, and then another time when I jumped back in. So I don't know. I'll have to take that in and see if I can unlock any more gnosis. But I think the ultimate thing is to not overload ourselves with all these different who, what's, where, et cetera, because that diverts attention from the focus, which is to try to get out of here. And I think a lot of the philosophies out there, they do that. It's so jumbled up that it's like an impossible maze. And we don't want to set up an impossible maze for ourselves, even though we do want to think as broadly as we can and speculate as much as we can and so on and so forth. So it's a balance. Again, it's a balance between the two. But
right.
Yeah, focus on balancing the mind, body, and soul, and the rest will follow. So on that note, I want to say thank you for hanging out with us. This wasn't supposed to go 2.5 hours, but it did. And I hope that we were able to clear up some stuff, share some parts of ourselves that we haven't shared before, and some new information that we haven't shared before, and cleared up some of the NPC stuff. So
Yeah.
don't worry about it. Whether you're NPC or organic consciousness, just play the game. That's it. Play the game, enjoy the game, play the game the best that you possibly can. The rest will all follow, regardless. That's the thing. Nobody ever dies. Nobody, NPC or organic alike. Nobody ever dies. NPCs go to source, come right back into the game. Organics go and exit the game if they want.
Yep.
But nobody ever dies.
Right.
That's the big thing. So kiss the one you love right now. You never know the last time it's going to be. And people are asking if we're still doing our Saturday show, and no, we're going to try to back away from that because we need Friday, Saturdays, and Sundays for work.
Yeah.
And we haven't been able to do the work that we need to do
Journey
with the Saturday show. It's created more problems than that. So we moved our time slot to Thursdays at 8:00 Pacific. We changed with Jimmy Jean over on TFR, but I think the majority of our shows will be like this, off the cuff, whenever we feel like. So make sure to hit the like, comment, and subscribe button. Most importantly, the subscribe button down there.
Yes, so you guys can know when
hit
we
the
go
bell,
on.
and the bell will notify you, or it should notify you. It doesn't notify me of every single video. I think what happens is it depends on how we title the videos. So we title the videos non-player character, right? In the Matrix. So when we title it like that, then people who have watched videos with other titles that are similar, non-player character in Matrix, they get notified with YouTube's algorithm. Whereas somebody who may have only tuned into that there's something about Molly video may not get the notification because it doesn't really seem to have anything in connection with the two.
Right.
So it's that's just the way YouTube is, unfortunately. Maybe what we need to do is create a BTV app that people can put on their phones, have access to all the shows, and then at the same time we can do a push notification instead of a YouTube notification to anybody that has the app. And you can sign up for push notifications there. So I'll have to find a developer to do that because I cannot sit in front of the computer for hours and hours and hours developing anymore. I just can't. I can't do it. It nearly killed me last time I did it. So we'll see if we can make that happen. On that note, kiss the one you love right now. You never know the last time it's going to be. Oh, yeah, ayalife.com, ayalife.com. Make sure to check out CBD and hemp oil. So we forget to plug our own product.
Yeah,
here,
I know.
It's not about plugging products. It's not about any of that. It's about connecting with each and every one of you. But iLife definitely does support it. So thank you, Alyssa, for mentioning that. We'll see you sometime soon. Very soon. Probably a lot sooner than we anticipate.
Even further.
Beyond the veil.